in that area. When it washed out the dike, then it undermined our boilers, it undermined the chimney fell into the building, and it was just water damage everywhere.
The extraordinary damage is not contained to Westfield alone. Like Russell, Southwick suffers more flood damage than anyone can remember.
Over in the center of town, there was some damage to houses. There was the railroad bridge that still hung over the chasm, just the tracks and the ties still hung together, where there had been a natural blockage of an unnatural blockage of the water coming down through the Great Brook, or Powder Mill Brook, and it had backed up into the center of town, so that several buildings in town were flooded when it had backed up. And then there was the breakage of the dike on North Pond.
Around midnight on August 19th, a dike holding North Pond in Southwick washes out and destroys the Keenan and Drummond homes. It splits North Longyard Road and contributes to the severe flooding along the Powder Mill and Little Rivers in Westfield. Local residents work frantically to plug the culvert connecting the Middle and South Ponds to keep them from flooding the area as well. Saturday, August 20th, dawns clear and cool, and hopes rise that the worst is past. However, one entry in the Westfield Fire Department log tells the story. Damage assessment and cleanup are just beginning, and the people of Westfield realize just how lucky they are to have survived the flood of '55. In a move that underscores the seriousness of the situation, President Dwight Eisenhower holds a news conference at Bradley Airport in Connecticut and declares southern New England a disaster area. And in Westfield, Mayor Burke surveys the damage and enlists the help of the National Guard.
Several days, about 2 days later, I guess, after the actual flood, National Guard was called out. I was supply sergeant there, and we started doing what they wanted us to do, which was actually guard duty. And there was no electricity, there was no gas, and a couple of days after the flood, the National Guard, we had these deuce and a half trucks, and we had 6 water tank trailers. We had our people out, and like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, we had loudspeakers. We were telling people we had water. People would come out with cups, with little coffee cups, and they wanted to pay us. But naturally, we didn't take any money for it.
It doesn't take long for the cleanup in Westfield and adjacent towns to swing into high gear, and people come together in a concerted effort to rebuild what was lost.
Flood Garcia
From
from
Southwick.
Southwick, a good friend of ours. And he came down with a big pump that was on a trailer. And between us fellas around here, helped them, we pumped out all the cellars because they were full of water.
The main topic of conversation was, are you all right? Did you lose anything? Is there anything I can help you with? And it was really great.
No matter where you went or what you talked to, that they were taking people in from the Meadow Street area and so forth that had nothing. I mean, everything was underwater.
There were so many volunteers that got in their canoes, that got in their motorboats, and went out helping out rescue people. And we're lucky we didn't lose some of those boats. I think one of the first people rescued, at least I was told it was from a fellow that was a volunteer in a motorboat. One of the officers was carrying a woman, and the water was right up to his chin. But when he got almost to the boat, he stepped off the curb. Of course, now he's 6 or 8 inches down. The water's up here, let the woman go. But they grabbed her and they got her in the boat.
It's interesting the way the disaster brings out the best and worst in people. I mean, we had all kinds of people trying to help us, and we also had looters who were going after motors and controls and things that were spread all over the area. So you get that crisis situation where some people are so helpful and other people are trying to take advantage of it, and quite a commentary on human nature.
In the weeks that follow, Westfield pulls itself together. As the water recedes, damaged buildings and debris are removed. Temporary bridges are built across ruined roadways, and local banks provide up to $1,500 in emergency loans. The city eventually condemns 76 factories and homes, and although estimates vary greatly, local papers report losses in Westfield to be $5 to $10 million. Damage throughout the area is 10 to 20 times that amount. But the surviving businesses in Westfield show signs of life.
Everybody was just working right around the clock and little by little getting it back going. So there were strange things. You made do with what you had to at the time. All in all, they were lucky. We didn't have anybody injured or hurt, or nobody got killed, and nobody got washed away. And Stevens was a very good company, and fortunately had the wherewithal to get it going again.
I think we were doing something in about 2 weeks. And Herb Burke, who was here at that time as head of manufacturing, he and Bob Dewey and the foreman and the men, it was remarkable the amount of dedication that everybody had.
As the flood of '55 recedes into distant memory, the question remains, can it happen again?
The flood control structures that are in place upstream are designed to protect against roughly a 100-year flood. That means a flood that you'd expect to happen once a century on the average. But of course, floods aren't regular events, so there's no guarantee that another 1955 event couldn't happen next year or the year after or sometime much sooner than that.
If back in the 80s, the Missouri River had its 500-year flood event, that could happen here this spring. I mean, any year, any time, we never know.
Whatever the future holds in store, the past is still with us. And when it rains and the day turns dark, many older folks in Westfield reflect on the flood of '55.
Every time I drive Meadow Street, I think of the flood. It's just automatic that August 18th you couldn't drive here. You'd have to have a boat.
When somebody tells me I love to lay in bed and listen to the rain, I lay in bed and I turn the radio on so I don't have to listen to it.
The noise was awful, huh?
Yeah.
Then when it came down so fast.
Well, we never forgot it.
No.
You know?
No, I never forgot it, right. We haven't never